And you see what that area covers. It is a very busy travel zone.
Yes. Good morning and welcome to Weekend Recharge. I'm Lynette Charles.
And I'm Molly McCollum. America's weekend depends on the weather. And especially when we start off with, the leftover complex from yesterday. We know we're going to see storms that fire up along the mid-Atlantic and the eastern seaboard, I-95 corridor. But then on top of that, we have to look ahead to what's coming this week, and that has a lot of rain for the south.
Exactly. So just another busy weekend, another busy week ahead. So we really need to buckle up.
All right. Well, there was barely any visibility on the roads near Kansas. Rounds of storms coming through areas like Chicago and then Indianapolis. Notice how, we don't have a lot of coverage of thunderstorms, and the thunderstorms aren't particularly strong. But that's going to change as we head towards Wednesday and see overlapping areas once again for Ohio Valley, Chicago, back into portions of the Midwest and even stretching into the Central Plains. It's a little bit too early for any kind of torcon values on Wednesday, but I do think that we will have them. The tornado chance is there with some of the ingredients in place and the widespread rains. So this is an area, of course, that we've been talking about a lot for widespread storms and widespread rain and flooding potential. And here we are. We're talking about it again from Davenport to Chicago to Detroit, Louisville. You think about Chicago, that was actually an area. So April, we were above average rainfall. May, essentially, the rain shut off for a lot of the Great Lakes in the Midwest. And now we're right back into, alleviating that flash drought that took place. And we're talking about flooding. This is Thursday through Friday morning as we look at more severe weather chances, this time from Cincinnati to Charleston, Washington, D.C., Philly through New York. So we have the severe weather chance today. We'll see it again towards the later half of the week as this system continues to push to the east. So the I-95 corridor, any summer travel plans? I don't know if you've been to the airport recently, but it seems like things have really picked up in intensity as far as how many people are at the airport with summer travel. I know we have the World Cup, too, so that's certainly making things busy. But you put some of those major airports maybe at a ground stop, and that's going to delay things significantly across the country. Big chances for some big rain depending on which model you look at. If the American model were to be true, this is Tuesday through Thursday, we would likely see some flooding there through the Ohio Valley. Lynette?
All right, Molly. And we're going
to... has been outlined by the National Hurricane Center as an area to watch. Very low chances of this becoming anything like, say, a tropical depression or even a tropical storm that gets the first name of the season there for the Atlantic Basin. But it is an area to watch, and it is an area associated with a lot of tropical moisture. We also have an additional area in the Pacific that we're watching. This is Invest 93E. This has a 30% chance of development over the next 2 days. And this one is going to kind of meander in the same area very slowly here and then slowly push off to the north and to the west. But this is the area that will likely have a much bigger impact on our weather here in the United States. And you see the chances of development next 2 days. 0% chance. And that's because right now, this area of generally disturbed weather is sitting right over Mexico. So it's over land right now. As it continues to move to the north and to the northeast and then moves back over open water, that's when it has a very small chance, only about a 20% chance of development, potentially into a tropical depression. Again, could it get a name? It's in the realm of possibility, but it really doesn't matter in the end because the impacts are going to be exactly the same. And that is, name or not, this is bringing dangerous days of rain to the same areas and flash flooding. That's the bottom line, that this is going to bring flash flooding. And so we know what tropical moisture can do to an area like Texas and a flood-prone area like Houston. And all of that tropical moisture is surging into Texas initially, but we also have this area of high pressure that's sitting over the Gulf that's going to steer a lot of that moisture across the southern tier. You can see it there in some of those deep reds and oranges, and this goes on for a couple of days. And we're not just talking one day. This is potentially all the way through Thursday that we still have that deep tropical moisture in place. We also have a stalled out front that's sitting over the south, and so when you get tropical moisture that gets tangled up with a stalled out boundary, bad things can happen with flash flooding. Sea surface temperatures, they're starting to warm as you would think this time of year, and so depending on some of the atmospheric conditions, that can spur some tropical development. Lynette?
All right, let's talk about how going to be on the warm side. Molly.
All right, we hope you can stay with us on this Sunday edition of Weekend Recharge because still ahead, it's a relay for America.
Molly.
Let's talk about the flooding threat that's going to evolve here across the southern tier for the next couple of days, because there's a couple of factors in play. One of them is the very same cold front that brought severe weather yesterday and then again today. That's eventually going to settle across the southern tier. At the same time, deep tropical moisture is going to be streaming in. In fact, it already is in parts of Texas. You will feel it as soon as you step out the door. I know it's summertime in Texas and you kind of get used to that feel anyways, but this is, a disorganized area generally where it is attempting to become a tropical entity, whether it does or not. In the end, doesn't particularly matter because the impacts are going to remain exactly the same. And that is days upon days of tropical downpours in the same areas that's going to lead to some dangerous flash flooding, widespread flash flooding too, because a lot of this is falling over areas that are already saturated, weeks upon weeks of rain. Now, it wasn't too long ago that, we couldn't buy a raindrop in the southern tier. That was back in the month of April, and we really saw that pattern change in May, but it's changed in a big way. Anytime you have a stalled out front and tropical moisture in place, you have a recipe for dangerous flash flooding. And unfortunately, that is exactly what is going to evolve as the week goes on. Beginning today, that tropical moisture is streaming into Texas, but high pressure is going to allow this to funnel in across most of the southern tier. And you see day after day, you don't really get a break. It is tropical downpours, and by Wednesday, I think we're really going to have some problems here across the south as the rain continues to add up. So, of course, we've got a long way to go with this one, and this is actually our very first area to watch in the Atlantic Basin. We've had several in the Pacific Basin. That is not uncommon, right, in the East Pac to see this much activity so early in the season. But this area to watch is not a lot to look at. Honestly, it's, the center of this area of disorganized thunderstorms is actually sitting over Mexico right now. So we're not expecting any development over the next 2 days. Next 7 days, different story. Very low chance of development. But whether we see tropical depression, tropical storm, it doesn't matter. I mean, the impacts are going to be exactly the same, and that is days upon days of tropical downpours and flooding rain across the southern tier. Texas, it's going to start first in Texas, and likely you're already feeling some of that increase in tropical moisture. This is the chance of a tropical depression. That's the European model, giving it a fairly high chance this does become something more organized here very slowly over the next couple of days. But as mentioned, it's just not particularly a lot to look at right now. Atmospheric moisture, though, that's a different story. Deep tropical moisture, that's what you see in these oranges and these deep red colors. That is going to start streaming into Texas here over the next 24 hours. A high pressure sitting over the Gulf is going to allow this to rotate and get pulled into a lot of the southern tier, clockwise flow around that area of high pressure. And that means many of us in the southern tier are going to experience intense tropical downpours that we really don't get a break from. You notice all the way through Wednesday and even Thursday, that tropical moisture is still in place. There's another factor at play here, and that's the fact that we have a stalled out front that's going to be across the south, too, that's going to focus some of the moisture and thunderstorm development for the next couple of days. That can cause some problems. Where do we typically look for storms to develop in June? Well, early here in the hurricane season in the Atlantic Basin, we typically look a little bit closer to home, whether it be the eastern seaboard or exactly where we're watching in portions of the Gulf, where we see these storms form very quickly to the coastline and obviously cause a lot of problems. 99% of the remaining activity to go. We do see activity early in the season. Typically on average, our first named tropical storm happens around June 20th. So if this does get a name, it would be right on average. But the peak of hurricane season, Lynette, is still a ways to go. And you look at this and you just realize how long hurricane season is.
Exactly. It really puts things into perspective. All right,
Let's move to the southern tier now, where there is a multi-day flood threat that is evolving. And there's a couple of different factors in play, but I want to show you just an example of what the next couple of days could be like Alexandria, Louisiana, where the 4-day total could reach 3 to 5 inches of rain, with the potential for there to be some spots that see even more than that. One of the big reasons is we have all of this tropical moisture that's moving in from the Gulf. It's an area to watch, technically, that's been circled by the National Hurricane Center with a very low chance of tropical development. But the impacts are the same, right? All of this tropical moisture is moving in. You can already feel it this morning and this afternoon in Texas. And high pressure is going to steer this across the southern tier while a front moves in and stalls out. When you have a stationary front and tropical moisture in play, that is a recipe for flash flooding, especially when you have an area that has seen repeated downpours as of late. We're essentially primed for flash flooding. It's not going to take much, and there's a lot of rain that is going to add up over the next few days. So once we see that front settle in, that's going to arrive tomorrow, late tonight into tomorrow. Then you see day after day rain over the same areas again and again. It is absolutely not without, not in the realm of possibility that we could see some double-digit rainfall totals out of this in flood-prone areas. So we'll be watching that very closely. The later that we get into the week, the higher the flood threat is going to become. And by Friday, we're essentially still in the same pattern for a lot of us. So we have days upon days of rain on the way.